Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Courtroom Insider. So glad you are with me tonight on this Thursday, November 6th, 2025. I'm Nate Eaton. Thanks for watching. You know, we've covered some interesting cases this week. Appreciate all of your feedback about the interview that we had with Amy Bradley's brother, Brad Bradley, and Tom, her boyfriend, along with some of the other cases that we have talked about. Tonight is another one of those that I had never heard about, but it leads me to ask so many questions, especially because there is a tie to Idaho. I got an email from someone who lives here in Idaho Falls, actually, where I'm at, about her sister who disappeared, vanished back in 1989, walking to a friend's house. It was a hot summer evening, and this 12-year-old girl at the time, sorry, 15-year-old at the time, I'm just pulling up a news article, was walking to her friend's to meet up with a friend, and she never showed up. She did not show up, and she has been missing ever since. Now, newspapers.com, sponsor of Courtroom Insider, has been a great help with us. I did a search today about all the stories about Blanca Elisa Roberson. And here is just one from 1994. This was 6 years after she disappeared. She disappeared in 89. Hope remains for missing girl. Forensic photos of Blanca Roberson will be distributed nationwide. And you can see these photos. The one on the left is what she looked like when she disappeared in 1989. The one on the right is what she looks like, or what she would have looked like, most likely, in 94. And this said, police and others have not given up hope of finding an Aransas Pass girl. I know I probably said that wrong, and I'll hear from some of you. More than 5 years after she disappeared while walking to a friend's house. Photos of Blanca Elisa Roberson will be mailed to millions of mailboxes across the United States soon in an effort to locate her, according to the national organization devoted for finding missing children. Each flyer will contain 2 images of the girl. One will be a photograph taken 5 years ago, shortly before she disappeared at the age of 13. The other will be a computer illustration of what she might look like at the age of 18. She was last seen by her friends on August 6, 1989. She left her home to walk to a friend's house on a Sunday afternoon. They were to meet halfway between the houses, which were about 8 blocks apart. She never made it. After the disappearance, police used dogs and volunteers on foot and in a helicopter to search the town, but they found nothing. That's again from newspapers.com. So her sister reached out to me, who now lives in Idaho Falls, but was living in Texas at the time, and said, is there any way you can feature my sister's story? And I said, absolutely. I'd love to be willing to talk about the case. And so just a few days ago, we sat down on Zoom and we discussed it and where the case stands today. And she hopes by doing this interview that somebody out there might know something, or it might convince or, encourage somebody to talk, say something so that police can get closer in bringing justice to this family. So here is her sister, Ruby Hall. Okay, so Ruby, first of all, I want to thank you for joining me and sharing this story, one that I was not familiar with, about your sister who vanished back in was it 1989?
Mhm.
89. So take us back there. Where were you living and what happened? And how old were you?
Yeah. So I was born in Aransas Pass, Texas. I was 12 years old at the time, and my sister was 13. Her name is Blanca Elisa Roberson. She disappeared on August 6, 1989. Um, South Texas is a coastal town. Shrimping was the big industry at the time. My dad was a shrimper, actually. Anywhere that you look is beaches and water, and the harbor was just a few minutes from our house. So it was a really our childhood was, aside from all the hard things that were happening, where we grew up was an ideal place to grow up. It was a small town. Elisa had spent the day with her friend, and she'd come home. She was done for the day, and she had a little friend called her and asked if she could come and play. And she'd asked my mom, and my mom had told her that it's getting late. It's time for you to stay home. Elisa's little friend said, "Hey, I'll meet you halfway, and then my dad can bring you home." And we were good friends of the family, and so my mom agreed to it. She thought that it would be okay.
Hmm.
And so the school that she was going to meet the little friend at was just a 6-minute walk from our house. And oftentimes it's just really, it's hard for me to imagine that our whole lives, everything changed within just 6 minutes, with just a 6-minute time frame. Our whole lives, have never, our lives have never been the same.
Yeah.
Um,
So
it,
she was 13.
yeah, she was 13 at the time and I was 12.
You were
Mhm.
12. You said Blanca, but did she go by Elisa?
Yes, she went by
Okay.
Elisa, but her full name was Blanca Elisa Roberson.
Okay. So she plans to meet up with this friend, and they're going to meet at the elementary school that is 6 minutes from your house.
Mhm.
Did she ever show up at the school?
We think so when her friend made it to the school, she wasn't there. We believe she made it as far as the school and kept walking because Debbie didn't quite make it to the school yet. Because
Mm.
what we were able to find out at the beginning, we had a lot of bloodhounds came in to the area and they followed her scent just a little bit past the school. So we believe she made it just a couple minutes past the meeting spot.
Okay.
Um, so it was just a 6-minute walk, and you could even see the school from the corner of our home. That's how close it was. It's just
And you
mind
said this
blowing.
was in August, so was it still light out?
Yes, so the South Texas summer, it was still there was still light out when she left the home. It was starting to get a little dark, but it didn't seem to get really dark until probably 7, 8 o'clock. And so at that point, there was still light out. My mom was like I said, it was starting to get late, and that's when my mom said, it was getting late. It's time to stay home. But because she had her friend, because her friend's dad was going to bring her home later, then she wouldn't be walking at in the dark, and that's
Hmm.
when my mom agreed to it.
Okay, so the friend ends up at the school, but Elisa's not there. So what transpired from that point?
Yes, so Debbie was her name. So she comes to the school and she doesn't see Elisa, so she also kept walking towards our home. And we had some neighbors of ours that were good friends of ours that had seen Elisa as she was walking by. They even talked to her and they asked her, "Hey, Elisa, what's up? What are you doing?" And her little friend asked, "Do you want to?" She was a little older, but she said, "Hey, you want to hang?" And Elisa said, "Well, I'm meeting Debbie." And so Debbie had come down and actually, right before our house, had seen the neighbors on the corner and they were playing. And she said she was looking for Elisa. And they said, "Oh, yeah, we just saw her. She went down that way." And so Debbie then turned around and went back in the direction, thinking maybe she missed her. Maybe it was a playground, it was a school. So she thought maybe she missed her along the way. So she went back. And she ended up ultimately going back to her home. This was the day before cell phones. She went back home, and that's when she called us. And she wanted to know if Elisa was still at the house. And I remember vividly, my mom was in the background. She was in the kitchen, and I picked up the phone. And she asked, is Elisa still there? Has she left yet? And my mom, I said, "Mom, it's Debbie. She wants to know if Elisa's left yet." And she goes, "Tell Debbie she should be with her right now." And there was a little bit of panic in my mom's voice that she kind of sensed it already because Elisa was pretty responsible. She was 13, but as far as telling us where she was going to be, she was pretty reliable like that.
Mm.
And that's where I think my mom sensed something was wrong early on.
And it's not like Elisa had talked about like running away or they had a fight or some sort of bad experience.
No, no. So I was home. Us kids were home when Elisa came home, and she was done for the day. She was getting ready to call it a night. There were no plans to go back out. And so when Elisa I was there, and when Elisa had asked, that's when my mom had said, it's getting quite late, but there was no fight or anything. And I know that the internet. There's a lot of things that get put out on the internet, and sometimes it's like the game of telephone. It starts out one thing and it ends up a whole different, which we're very familiar with.
Yeah.
But there was no fight or anything that was happening before Lisa left the home.
So Debbie calls, your mom says she should be with you. She's
Mhm.
not. What did you guys do at that point?
So at that point, I don't think we weren't in full-blown panic just yet. Debbie said, I'm going to go look for her again. When my dad gets home, we can also go look for her. But I think, it's been 35 years, so sometimes things get a little bit, memories get a
Right.
little skewed. But she went back looking for her. And I don't know the time, how long she was gone again, but she went back home and she said, we weren't able to find her. She was with another little friend also at the time who just happened to be at the house. And so they went looking for Elisa. And then she called and said, we still can't find Elisa. Is she there? And we told her again, she's not here. So, at that point, she said, well, when my dad gets here, we're going to go looking for her. At that point, that's when my mom, of course, my mom, her first language was Spanish, so she didn't speak English very well. So she had me get on the phone and start making phone calls to all our friends, the neighbors, anybody that we could think of to see if maybe Elisa was at their house, if maybe she had stopped by and met with one of them. So we started making phone calls, and that's how we knew that some neighbors had actually seen her and talked to her along the way. And we just waited until Debbie's dad then went. He came home, and they went looking for her. We were able to pull records, and we found out that the phone call was made. It was after 9:30 p.m. that my mom finally had me call the police. He had come over and said we can't find her. The police records even show that it was me making the phone call as a
Mm,
little 12-year-old kid that I don't have any memory of, because there's some things that were, um, you know, so many things that were happening at the time,
yeah.
but it was me that made the phone call. Um, and so that night, some police officers came to take a report. Um, I know you've probably seen this a lot, where there are a lot of cases where somebody it's not really taken seriously right at the beginning, especially in those days. But we see it also where it takes some time for the police to finally realize that something's wrong. And at
Yeah.
that time, they actually filed her as a runaway, the report,
Mm.
which was unfortunate. So they weren't really looking for her that night. Um, it wasn't until the following day. Yeah.
Ruby, I imagine if you're 12 and she's 13, were you guys pretty close?
Oh, I
Yeah.
was, yeah, Elisa was a cool sister. She was a true Gen Xer, if you can imagine. At that time, it was, the 80s rock bands that were playing. She had her babysitting money. She would buy her tapes, because back then we used tapes.
Hmm.
She had a little boom box that she would listen to music, and we'd watch MTV. We were very close. We were just a year and a half apart. There were three of us siblings, back to back. And then my little brother came a little bit later. So Elisa and I were pretty close. We had a lot of the same friends, and she actually was held back a year. So she was actually in my grade. So by the age of 13, she was starting to get to the point where she kind of wanted to have her friends separate from her little, where she didn't want her little sister tagging along. But my mom, of course, if my mom needed her to take the kids, we'd tag along. So
Yeah.
at that point, I'm sure I was a pain, being 12 years old and just always wanting to be with her. But yeah, we were pretty close.
Do you remember what that first night is like when, it's dark and the police say she's a runaway and she's not home and
Yeah.
no one knows where she's at?
Yeah, I remember that day very vividly, and I remember those feelings very, very, like it was yesterday. In fact, I'm feeling them right now.
Mhm.
Um, so that night we made the report, we made the police report, and my mom and I didn't go to sleep the whole night. We were up. My mom was pacing. We were looking out the window. There were a few times she went outside and would look down the street to see maybe she would see Elisa coming. I was with her. I was the one that now had to step into Elisa's shoes because my mom was very dependent on her.
Hmm.
My mom didn't speak very good English. And so Elisa was born in Nicaragua. So she was able to translate for my mom and help her with a lot of, doctor visits, filling out applications. As a little 13-year-old, she had a lot of responsibility, and I was pretty mature in that sense, as much as a 13-year-old could be. But it was very sad. I knew as a 12-year-old kid that something was very wrong. And I too kept waiting for her to just turn the corner, just turn on the driveway and just say, "I'm home, Mom."
Mm.
And it was very sad. It was very just something that I never want to experience again. It was a horrible night, and my mom I never seen my I've never seen my mom so so upset and so distraught, not knowing what to do. Um, my parents were divorced at the time, and my dad was a shrimper, so he was off in the Gulf of Mexico shrimping at the time.
Mm.
So she had no one really to to call or to talk to. She didn't have anyone really to support her at this time, and none of her family is here. So it was a really, really hard time.
Yeah. I,
Yeah,
I can't imagine that. That's like every single parent's nightmare.
yeah,
So what ends up happening over the next few weeks and
yeah.
months?
Yeah, so the very next morning, we didn't have a car. And the very next morning there's four of us total kids, but there were three of us. She got up that morning and we walked our happy feet down to the police department. Very first thing that morning. Lieutenant Linda Thompson, she was over the juvenile division at the time. And the way that it was supposed to be is anything that involved a juvenile, any kind of crime or any incident that involved a juvenile, she was to be notified immediately. And she was off duty at the time, so she wasn't notified until the very next morning. It was a small town, so she knew my family. We knew each other, and she not personally, she just knew of us, and we had other things that were going on at the time that she came in contact with her family. But she knew Elisa was her mouthpiece. And so when she saw us, she said she just had time to get her cup of coffee and to get her papers handed to her that were of the weekend's incidents and events. And as soon as she grabbed them, my mom walks in with us three kids. And I do remember that pretty vividly. And she said she knew just by seeing my mom without Elisa there that something was wrong.
Mm.
Um, and that's when it started, the police talking to my mom and us kids about, what we remember, just everything and anything and everything you can think of that they were asking us. They were asking us that that day.
How old were
Um,
your siblings?
so we were all back to back. So my brother Tony was 1 year younger, so he was 11. I was 12. Elisa was 13, and then we had a little brother that was just 4 at the time.
Mm.
Yeah, and so yeah, it was really hard. And um, so shortly after that, I don't know the time frame, within a day or that day, within a couple days, I don't know for sure, but they brought in some bloodhounds. I just remember after that was pandemonium. Police in and out of our home, helicopters, search and rescue, bloodhounds. My dad was called in from the Gulf of Mexico to come in and letting him know that Elisa was missing. And we had a lot of people at our house, a lot of friends, and of course, in those, you're often told as parents and as the family to just kind of stay back, let us do our job as law enforcement. We've got this. You just stay home if she comes home or if there are any phone calls. And we couldn't do that as a family. We couldn't do that. And so my My mom and friends and my dad and my brother, we all went in different directions, just kind of searching different areas of the town, looking for her, passing out flyers, asking people if they'd seen Elisa. So it was going pretty fast. It hit the ground running once they were made aware that a 13-year-old girl didn't come home, and they were pulling out all the stops, and it was just it just kept going for weeks and weeks. Just
And
uh,
did they find anything? Was anything found?
no, no, it's just it's hard to believe, and they talk about that window from the time she went missing to the time the next morning when it was finally when things started happening. What could have happened differently? What might be the result today, almost 40 years later, if things had been done differently, if they had started really actively searching immediately, where would we be today? But so much was lost in those 12 hours of from the time we reported the her missing. And so, nothing. I mean, and there are a lot of things that have to be filtered in. They talk to neighbors, friends, of course, our little friend Debbie, her dad, everybody we could think of was being questioned. And at that time, everybody's considered a suspect until you're cleared. And then so early on, of course, my dad was questioned. It's uncomfortable and it's not fun, but we know that there's a reason behind it. So, our family was cleared early on. And there always there were some theories back then, the theories that some of the police department at the time have kind of have felt may have happened, but there's never been anything concrete.
So Ruby, I understand that there was never like an official suspect, but that there were a couple of people of interest that like Debbie's dad
Yes.
and your mother's boyfriend. What can you tell us
Yes.
about that?
Yes. So early on, again, it wasn't made public or official that there was a suspect, but there was always Bob Green was one of the first people that they were looking at early on in the investigation. Ralph Gonzalez was my mom's boyfriend at the time, who she was actually trying to, he was very abusive, and she was trying to break off the relationship. And he was a very dangerous man. He had made some very serious threats to her. He threatened to kill her several times and even tried. And when she finally was able to break from him, he did threaten her that he was going to do something to her that she'll never be rid of him. She'll never
Oh
be able to
man.
forget him. She'll always remember him. And so very early on, she was screaming from the rooftops this is you need to look at Ralph. Um, they did look into both of the so for whatever whether not enough evidence, whether not enough information, they were never able to name anyone an official suspect
Uh,
or um, person of interest at the time. But I've been very vocal in the last few years because at this point, here we are 35 years, almost 40 years into this. Uh, when you keep quiet about a lot of these things that you need to talk about these things, you need to be open, and you need to hope that something may trigger some kind of memory or information that might be of interest. So at this point, we're a little more open about it because
mm.
we have nothing to lose at this point.
Did they ever find any evidence of her, of your sister,
No,
clothing or anything like that?
no, it's
Nothing.
really unfortunate. I knew early on they came to our home and took quite a few items of my sister's, her clothing, her shoes, a brush, anything and everything to kind of help find, her scent, so that a bloodhound can maybe find her. And I just don't know how, in that short amount of time, how they were not able to. We believe because the bloodhounds followed her scent to a certain point and it stopped. We believe that that's where she may have been picked up.
And thrown, put in a car or something.
Yeah. We believe she was picked up by someone she knew and trusted. There was not any there was no evidence of any screaming at the time. There was no evidence of an altercation. Nobody heard anything. This is a Sunday afternoon in South Texas. The weather's, I mean, everybody's out on their porch at that time, and a quiet small neighborhood, and nobody heard or saw anything. So we believed that somebody stopped to pick her up, and it was someone she knew and trusted.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you say 35, 40 years later, what have there been any developments over the past 4 decades? Or are we still where we
You
are
know,
today, where we were back in 1989?
you know, my mom kept saying, because so we were living in Aransas Pass for a few years, and because it was just too hard to live there. It broke my parents. My dad moved to Alaska, and then my mom, we ended up here in Idaho. Idaho Falls. We had some we were Mormon at the time, and so we had some gracious a bishop and his wife that knew what my mom was going through at the time, and said, if if you'd like a new start and you want to get away from here, we're happy to help you. And they're from Idaho Falls, so that's how we ended up here.
Mm.
And my mom always said, I just have to wait for Ruby to get to the right place for her to take the torch, because it broke my mom. She tried so hard. When we left Idaho Falls, um, we left everything behind, and no one knew where we were. And my mom was constantly terrified that whoever took Elisa was going to come and take us, or was going to kill us all.
You mean when you
And
left Texas and came to Idaho Falls?
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And that was the reason why, one of the main reasons is to she didn't feel safe anymore. So she always said, when Ruby gets to the right place, she's going to have to be the one that picks up the torch, because it was just too hard and too much for my parents to do it. It just broke them. And she did try for several years, but um, in 2016, there were some, the police department they had Texas EquiSearch come in and search some areas of concern that they felt, they might be able to find, they might be able to find something.
Hmm.
They searched. It was actually Linda Thompson that had called Texas EquiSearch and asked, "Would you be willing to search some areas in our hometown?" And the areas she wanted them to search were properties of Bob Green.
Mm.
So that was done. They also searched our property. There were some rumors and an alleged tip that maybe our family had something to do with it. So it just took a whole other turn, and here we are, almost 10 years later. We're still trying to find out what was found, what was done, what was not done. We have found a lot of difficulty in trying to get the police department to work with us. But it's only been in probably the last 3 years that I started taking a more proactive approach. And I decided that it's time now for me to just make as much noise as I can and get as much organizations and people to help, and just start a movement. Because let's just be honest, when you have a cold case that old, not only does it get harder and harder each year that passes, they don't have the resources always to dedicate all this time to this one cold case. It's going to be forgotten about.
Hmm.
And unless and until the family steps up, and it's going to be up to the family. And because of our noise, and because of the things that we have done, and the organizations that have been helping us, Season of Justice, Light the Way. And I think you met quite a few of them at CrimeCon.
Yeah.
Haley Gray, Gabby Petito.
Hmm.
So they've all helped me, and our family to help get more information out there. So finally, because of all of that, we were able to finally get a third-party law enforcement agency to get in. And so the Texas Attorney General's office now is investigating, or they're now assisting in the investigation, which is what we were hoping for.
Yeah.
Um, so it's been a lot, but because we haven't been in the know, we don't know exactly what they've done or not done. We've had to push really hard just to get the basic information, and it's really sad and hard. And I think you've run into this a lot too when you've talked to families of victims. why is it that the families of victims have to fight so hard just to get some answers from law enforcement, just to get them to to work with them. So we've had to take it into our own hands. You know, we have a family investigator. We've hired an attorney to help us get the case files. So it's currently in litigation right now, and we're it's now been 3 years. So it's that hard just to get.
The files.
Yeah. It's just been a really hard.
Well, I appreciate you being willing to talk about it, and I cannot imagine the frustration and all sorts of emotions that your families have been through the past 35 years. Is your mom still alive?
Yes, she lives right here in Grant, Idaho, just
Mm.
20 minutes from Idaho Falls. And it's just she's just kind of passed the torch on to me, and she's on board with everything. She just kind of has I'm kind of the mouthpiece, so I'm the outspoken one and the advocate and for Elisa, and she's got to have someone. It's got to be the family. And so we are just advocating and pushing hard. We have her on Missing Elisa Roberson Facebook page, TikTok, Instagram, you name it. It's everywhere. And I can't say this enough that the people who have helped us along the way, these great organizations and people, it's almost they have to go through it to be able to understand and be able to help to know what they've because they've been through it. So we've got
Yeah.
some great people that are supporting our cause and helping us with Elisa's case, and we can't ask for anything more.
So, Ruby, what do you think happened to your sister?
So I believe she was picked up by someone she knew. In my heart of heart, I believe I truly believe that whether it was somebody picking up Elisa for someone that it was somebody that she knew and trusted, she was picked up by. She would have never gotten into a car with someone she didn't trust. She wouldn't have. She was just really smart that way. So I will always stand by that. It was somebody she knew who took her. We believe because of the close proximity from Mexico, from South Texas to Mexico. And it was a big shrimping town. There was a lot of sex trafficking that was going on at the time, a lot of drug activity, that it would have been very easy to get Elisa on a boat and to take her to Mexico.
Mm.
It's the hard reality that we live with. It's hard to talk about, and people don't want to hear these things. You know, it's hard to say sometimes, but we've lived with this reality for so long that she may have been a victim of sex trafficking, and so we'll never know, and that is why the case files are so important. Unless and until we have those case files, we can't know for sure what was done and what wasn't done, what has to be done, what can we mark off, what are we spending and wasting our time on. We just don't know what we don't know, and so we've had to take things into our own hands and with our family investigator and ourselves. We've taken on this investigation ourselves, and we've seen this happen with a lot of families that we have to do it ourselves. So for the last probably 20 years, we've been doing this on our own, asking questions, gathering information, doing interviews. Our family investigator is pro bono. He's a family friend, and this is what he's done for a living. So he's just been gracious to offer his time and resources. We also have Project Absentus helping us. They're a combination of law enforcement, retired FBI, and law enforcement that help with cold cases. That's just they assisted. It was founded by Abel Pena, and he was with the FBI, and it was founded because of the Jason Landry case.
Oh yeah,
Mhm,
yeah, you know about that. I had him
mhm,
on a couple
mhm.
weeks ago. His
Yep,
family,
yep, I
yeah.
watched it. And us families, the families of all these victims, Patty Otto's daughter, Susan, Jason Landry and his family, we're a network. We in fact we communicate very regularly, and we've had to speak. We have to network and support each other. Gabby Petito's mom and her stepmom, I've spoken to them. Kelly Sigler with Cold Case Files, I've spoken to her. I've spoken to Polly Class's dad. You have to reach out to those people who have been there, who know and can guide you to know what the next step is. And we're learning by the seat of our pants. We've never, there's no handbook. There's no guidebook to know what to do from day to day.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so important that we have these networks and these people. And when Patty Otto was on, we messaged and we shared, and we're just so excited that our own Nate Eaton here in Idaho Falls has been covering these cases that are bigger than just our little Idaho here. It's just yeah.
Well, this is my home, and this is, these cases are close to me, not only physically, but my heart. So I appreciate you being willing to open up and share, and I hope that somebody watching knows something or is able to lead to a tip that might solve your sister's disappearance, or at least, get more information out there. And thank you again, Ruby, for being willing to
Thank
share.
you. Thank you so much. It just takes that one person, that
Hmm.
one memory, that one thing that we think. It doesn't mean anything that can break a lot of these cases. So thank you again. I
Right.
appreciate it. The more awareness we could bring to these cold cases, we appreciate it so much. And I appreciate you taking the time to interview me.
Absolutely. And hopefully, this interview can lead to some answers. My thanks to Ruby for coming on and talking about this, about her sister. I do want to give you an update that I learned while researching this story, that just 2 months ago, on September 8th, Blanca Roberson was declared deceased. Now, there's a catch. This is from newspapers.com again, from the Corpus Christi Caller Times. Blanca Roberson, who went missing from Arkansas Pass in 1989, has legally been declared deceased. Family members sought an order from an Idaho district court and obtained a judicial declaration of her death on August 4th, according to court records. Now, it goes on to say that she had been absent for a continuous period over 35 years, during which time she has not been seen or heard from despite diligent search and inquiry by family and law enforcement authorities. The petition in the 7th Judicial District, filed right here in East Idaho, says, pursuant to code, courts find a clear and convincing evidence that she is presumed to be deceased. The announcement coincides with a decades-long investigation by officers and detectives to determine what led the then 13-year-old to vanish after she was seen walking from her family house to Kyberger Elementary School, four blocks away. Quote, this is the attorney, Jedediah Bigelow, from the firm here in Idaho Falls. He said that formal death certificates typically provide closure to family members who struggle with a lack of answers or evidence. She was so young when she went missing that there are no probate matters. It's not necessarily evident of anything. Hopefully, it helps open the doors to get additional information. He said when the family first approached him a year ago about the certificate, since they live in Idaho, they attempted to communicate with police in Texas, and he recommended they talk to the Texas attorney about it. So anyway, that's interesting. It's not like, as far as I know, it's not like they're going to get life insurance policy money or anything, which could be one reason why you want someone legally declared dead, if you had life insurance policy or probate matters, as he mentioned. But that wouldn't be the case here. She was young at the time and likely did not have a life insurance policy. But it is a way to get the word, keep the case active, and sad that they had to do this, but this is obviously what the family wanted, and so it was nice that they were able to get what they wanted. And we'll continue to follow this one. As I said, Ruby lives here in Idaho Falls, where I'm at, and so we'll hopefully get those updates. Here's where you can find me. I'm on Facebook and Instagram and X and YouTube. Subscribe if you haven't. We would appreciate that. And we will continue to bring you more Courtroom Insiders. Taking tomorrow night off. It's Elliot's birthday. He's turning 7. We're going to do something fun. I don't know what, but something. And we'll be back here next week for more Courtroom Insider. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Nate Eaton. Have a great weekend.